In front of Zonghua, the earth made a deafening noise, then a crack thousands of meters long split open in the middle, and countless rocks and snow rolled down. Directly below, a pitch-black abyss was exposed. Zhang Yi glanced at it and couldn't see the bottom, only endless darkness. According to the Xinjiang region, this was a natural abyss formed by the earth splitting apart after the end of the world. Its depth exceeded 15,000 meters, and explorers were unable to go deeper, so no one knew how deep it was or where it led. The Yuan stone vein was only discovered 5,000 meters underground. The ground slowly split apart on both sides, and after more than 10 seconds, a huge, irregular pit with a diameter of thousands of meters was revealed. Everyone who came here for the first time was deeply shocked by the scene before their eyes. Just looking at it gave them a sense of fear that they were about to be swallowed by darkness. Fatty Sue swallowed hard. What a huge pit! Zhang Yi also frowned. Is this abyss really naturally formed? He couldn't help but think of the abyss on Star Island. He didn't know why, but he always felt that there were certain similarities between these two places. However, they were not completely the same. The Star Island abyss gave him a feeling of evil and darkness. But this abyss made him feel its majesty and vastness, inspiring awe. Dragon vein of Huaxia, are there really dragons in it? Zhang Yi muttered to himself. Hearing this, everyone around him couldn't help but laugh. I don't know if there are dragons, but there are definitely giant centipedes. Li Changgong said indifferently. Han Shanzhua said boldly, maybe the people in the past had poor eyesight and mistook giant centipedes for dragons. Zonghua was a serious man and didn't like to waste time with them at times like this. With a wave of his hand, hundreds of engineers rushed out from behind him. The rear carriages of the train opened, and they carried out a large pile of complicated tools. Zhang Yi and the others looked over and saw that they were actually building a ladder into the abyss. Are you going to put a ladder into the depths of the earth? Are you going to make us climb down? Zhang Yi couldn't help but complain to Zonghua. In fact, in order to deal with the situation underground, they had added flying devices to their combat suits. Zonghua said calmly, this is necessary. The underground is the Earth centipede's home turf. If we humans want to fight them there, we must rely on tools. As he spoke, Zhang Yi saw some engineers pushing large pieces of equipment over on sleds and then starting to lower them into the abyss. It was a very thin thread that looked like cotton thread used for sewing clothes at home. Is this nanowire? Zhang Yi asked Zonghua. Zonghua nodded, it is indeed a nanomaterial. Only this material could support the elevator and large amounts of supplies being dropped 10,000 meters underground. Not everyone was like Zhang Yi, who traveled light and could just throw things into dimensional space. The other people fighting had to carry large amounts of weapons, oxygen, and medicine, which had to be carried by hand. As the main force, Zhang Yi couldn't always stay with the other team members, so transporting these supplies was essential. Zhang Yi nodded and exclaimed in his heart, professionals are professionals. Zonghua's preparations were indeed thorough. This was probably what was meant by before the army moves, the supplies must go first. The engineers had obviously rehearsed countless times for this operation, so it took less than 15 minutes to lay out more than a dozen elevators, which were attached to a huge armored train at the other end. If any problems arose, they could quickly start the elevator and bring the people below up. After the arrangements were complete, Zonghua said to everyone, let's go. He was the first to step onto the elevator, and his subordinate, Wu Zhiqi, Tianfeng Yi, followed without hesitation. The 36 heavenly spirits followed closely behind. Liang ran over boisterously and wrapped her arms around Fatty Sue's arm. It's too crowded over there, I'll go with you guys. Fatty Sue didn't expect Liang to dare to run over and find him at a time like this. He was both shy and excited. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. He knew Liang's identity, so he knew that she would occasionally do something bold, and no one would restrain her. However, as long as it didn't affect the battle, it was fine. Flower! Zhang Yi shouted, and Flower let out a meow. Then with a gust of wind, its body instantly grew larger and turned into a 7 or 8 meter long, winged beast. Liang Yu, Uncle Yu, and Deng Shintong jumped onto Flower's back, while Fatty Su struggled to climb up and pulled Li Yang onto Flower's back. Zhang Yi floated in the air and flew toward the abyss with them. People from other regions also displayed their abilities. In the northwest region, Sky War god Qinglanlan turned into a peregrine falcon as big as a person and hovered above the heads of the others. Li Changgong took the others down in an elevator. In the northeast region, Han Shanzhua whistled, and black mist appeared around his body, finally turning into a swarm of crows. This flock of crows lifted him and the 5 immortals of the northeast and also descended toward the abyss. Soon, everyone entered the abyss. The abyss was huge and empty, and soon the huge opening behind them became a small point of light. The deeper they went, the temperature slowly rose, and before long, it reached a level that made people feel warm. Everyone was wearing combat suits that could regulate temperature, so they were well prepared and didn't need to worry about this problem. Even when they reached 10,000 meters underground, they had to endure temperatures of over 100 degrees Celsius. No wonder such huge creatures as earth centipedes existed deep underground. Because of such high temperatures, the larger the creature, the easier it was to dissipate heat. It is said that in prehistoric times, dinosaurs and other giant creatures were able to exist in large numbers because the temperature on the planet was several times higher than it is today. The group of dozens of people worked tirelessly, following their previous plan to end the battle in the shortest amount of time possible. However, as Zhang Yi, Li Changgong, Han Shanzhua, and the others fell, their eyes were constantly scanning the surrounding cliff walls. This was where the Yuan stone vein had been discovered, and they were all very curious about this mysterious substance and had their own plans. As they continued to descend, the elevator made of nanothreads looked like a row of fine spider webs, but it was able to steadily lower the elevator, carrying dozens of people to a depth of several thousand meters. At this moment, Zhang Yi and the others finally discovered a strange light coming from underground. When they descended to about 5,000 meters underground, Zhang Yi saw a clear blue starry sky. On the cliff walls, there were countless stars, which were yuan ore that had been mined but not completely collected. In the shadow space, Liu Karen operated the detection equipment and began searching the surroundings. Zhong Yue said in a deep voice, "Those earth centipedes have been devouring the yuan stone veins to evolve. This is one of their main sources of food. Once we reach here, the earth centipede's lair won't be far away. Everyone, prepare for battle." Upon hearing this, everyone's eyes sharpened. Zhang Yi had been using the dimensional gate to block everyone around him, with the white eagle in his left hand and the holy judgment in his right hand ready. As Zhang Yi flew downward, he casually cut a piece of yuan stone from the cliff wall beside him and held it in his hand to feel it. This natural ore was like coal and contained energy. However, it needed to be extracted using instruments and equipment. Zhang Yi put it away and began to silently calculate in his mind how to reasonably mine the surrounding veins when the time came. After descending to 7,000 meters, they slowly began to see the earth centipedes on the surrounding rock walls. Deep underground, there was only the faint light provided by the yuan stones, but with night vision goggles, they could clearly see the earth centipedes. It was a dark, bamboo-like creature. Though its name included the word centipede, it bore little resemblance to the common centipede, despite its dozens of legs. Especially the drill-like mouthparts on its head gave it an utterly repulsive appearance. The group did not rush to attack. There were only a small number of earth centipedes here, and they had not yet reached their usual habitat. Zhang Yi, Zhong Yue, Li Changgong, and Han Shanzhua exchanged glances and silently concealed their auras. As they continued to descend to a depth of about 10,000 meters, the rock walls were already covered with earth centipedes. The rock walls here were also full of holes, like a beehive, with earth centipedes crawling in and out everywhere. According to the original plan, let's begin. Zhong Yue gave the order. After receiving the order, all the mutants immediately launched a fierce attack on the earth centipedes on the surrounding rock walls. The 4 of them did not act for the time being, choosing instead to watch from the sidelines. The plan was to let the others lure the Earth Centipede clan. The Centipede Queen and the Centipede King were very vigilant, and if they spotted the 4 Epsilons, they might scare them away. Therefore, Zhang Yi and the other three watched from the sidelines, waiting for the Centipede Queen and the Centipede King to rush out before making their move. In the Xinjiang region, the 36 heavenly spirits were the first to launch an attack. They carried a large amount of heavy weapons and equipment and began to fiercely bombard the cliff walls. Wu Zhiqi, Tianfeng Yi, directly transformed into a giant ape, leaped onto the cliff wall, grabbed the head of an earth centipede, and with a crack, crushed it into a pulp, spraying colorful liquid everywhere. Screech! The earth centipede tribe had long had their eyes on this group of invaders, but they didn't expect them to launch an attack, so they let out a shrill, piercing scream. The sound penetrated the rock wall and traveled along the passageways to their companions. After only a dozen seconds, everyone saw a scene that made their hair stand on end. In the circular abyss passageway, countless holes in the rock walls were like noodles, and countless earth centipedes poured out, one after another, as if there were no end to them, rushing towards the mutants. In just a moment, there were at least hundreds of thousands of earth centipedes. What's more, there were even more earth centipedes continuously emerging from the passageway. Even though they were mentally prepared, some of the mutants still turned pale when they saw this scene with their own eyes. Especially in the huge abyss, although they had night vision goggles, the actual visual effect was not ideal, which further magnified their fear. At this moment, Deng Shintong made his move. He stood on Flower's back, leaped into the air, and hovered in midair with the help of his flying device. A dazzling white light suddenly burst forth from his body, instantly illuminating all the space within a radius of several thousand meters. The white light was so intense that it was as if a huge sun was suspended in midair. The light that arrived in an instant dispelled all the darkness. It also allowed all the mutants to see the real situation below. There were countless white earth centipedes, screeching and rushing towards them. These brainless creatures didn't even care about their own safety and leaped into the air towards the mutants. They had no eyes and were not affected by light. But as long as they could see, the fear in the hearts of humans would be greatly reduced. Fatty Sue. Zhang Yi gave Fatty Sue a look. Fatty Sue understood immediately. He stood up on Flower's back, turned his head to look at Li Yangyang beside him, and with Li Yangyang's encouraging gaze, he nodded vigorously. Then Fatty Sue took a deep breath and his belly bulged. Who? A bitter cold wind enveloped Fatty Sue's body, blowing his hair and making his combat suit rustle. A few seconds later, he aimed at the huge nest below and suddenly blew out a huge cold wind. Blizzard was Fatty Sue's ability. It wasn't very powerful, but it had a wide coverage and was excellent at controlling the battlefield. A large amount of ice and snow blew fiercely in the bitter cold wind, and a storm raged, rushing through the narrow passage. The earth centipedes rushing at high speed suddenly became stiff and unable to adapt. In order to survive underground, they had long since adapted to the high temperatures underground. Fatty Sue's blizzard could cause the temperature of the entire space to drop by more than 30 degrees Celsius in an instant, and as long as his ability was not interrupted, the temperature would continue to drop to a terrifying 60 degrees Celsius in the following time. Although the two members of Zhang Yi's team did not cause any substantial damage to the Earth Centipede clan, their ability to control the battlefield directly helped everyone a lot. The mutants from other regions looked at them and couldn't help but feel a little more recognition in their hearts. Kill! Chop these insects to pieces! A heavenly spirit shouted, waving a stick in his hand as he rushed forward. With one blow, he split an Earth Centipede in half. In the northwest region, Sky War God Qinling transformed into a peregrine falcon and swooped down fiercely. Her speed was so fast that it was impossible for ordinary people to see her with the naked eye. Even Zhang Yi could only detect her movements through his time echo ability. Sky War God Qinling was known as the fastest in the northwest region. If it weren't for his ability advantage, even Li Changgong wouldn't be able to catch up with her. With a simple crossflash, her figure left a trail of silk-like marks in the abyss. In an instant, hundreds of earth centipedes were cut into pieces. Flower flew in the air, flapping its two huge wings. It was in no hurry to attack because most of the earth centipedes in front of it were not strong enough, and he had no desire to hunt them. For him, mutant beasts with an ability index below 9,000 were not worth attacking. However, the enthusiasm for battle still ignited the others. Uncle Yu had been carrying a thick backpack on his back. He used the intelligent system of his combat suit to activate the backpack's combat mode. The object that looked like a backpack quickly began to split apart behind him, then turned into a complete set of close-fitting combat armor that attached itself to his body. In less than 3 seconds, Uncle Yu was transformed into an Iron Man. However, this suit of armor still had one shortcoming: it was still powered by fossil fuels. On his back was a tall fuel tank containing the most advanced compressed liquefied fuel gas of the 1950s, which was the source of power for the combat armor. This was the first generation of exoskeleton combat armor developed by Liu Karen. Due to its heavy weight, it was not suitable for everyone, but Uncle Yu, with his enhancement abilities, was a perfect fit. Uncle Yu raised his arm, and a cannon barrel popped out of his wrist, which he aimed at the earth centipedes below and fired. The powerful laser cannon instantly killed 2 earth centipedes. This suit of armor attracted the attention of other mutants from other districts. Such advanced armor technology had not yet been mastered by other districts, mainly because the armor was too heavy and had various problems such as low temperature resistance, which prevented them from researching it. The appearance of Uncle Yu's suit of armor made many people start to observe it seriously, wanting to learn about the possibilities of armored warriors. Under the gaze of everyone, Uncle Yu fired a steel cable from his left arm combat suit and stabbed it directly into the rock wall. The exoskeleton can enhance combat effectiveness, and this suit of armor is mainly designed for people with weak close combat abilities, such as Zhang Yi and Liu Karen. After wearing it, speed and strength will be greatly enhanced, and it is equipped with various weapons and equipment. Even the weak Yang Xia would have theoretical stats comparable to a Gamma-level mutant when wearing it. Uncle Yu was its first test subject, and with the power of the exoskeleton armor, he had even stronger combat abilities. At the same time, he is also responsible for helping Liu Karen collect data to further improve the combat armor. Uncle Yu raised his right hand, the palm of which was a circular cannon that could fire high-energy lasers. At the same time, a 20mm caliber mini rocket launcher popped out of his shoulder. Uncle Yu aimed the laser cannon in his hand at the earth centipedes climbing up the rock wall and began to hunt them down with precision. With the intelligent system's assisted aiming function, his combat effectiveness became even more formidable in this large-scale battle. Bang! 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 In the blink of an eye, 5 or 6 earth centipedes were pierced by the laser cannons and fell from the abyss. The battle here alarmed the earth centipede clan, and dozens more earth centipedes immediately crawled towards them at high speed. Uncle Yu was unhurried. He had tested this set of armor many times and was now very skilled at using it. Click! The back of the battle armor opened, and 6 machine guns that looked like crab arms popped out. Together with the shoulder cannons on his shoulders, they began to mercilessly sweep the earth centipedes on the rock wall. The machine guns roared, and when the earth centipedes were hit, their hard shells quickly shattered, and green blood mixed with broken bodies splattered everywhere. Uncle Yu laughed happily, nimbly using the hooks on his armor to move around on the rock wall and then slaughtering the earth centipedes. This fighting style inevitably attracted the attention of the powerful beings among the earth centipede clan. Soon, a giant individual more than 10 meters long emerged from the group of earth centipedes. Its entire white shell gave off a strange feeling, and its pointed head was different from the other individuals, with 2 huge claws. This was a captain-level earth centipede, and it had set its sights on Uncle Yu. Uncle Yu also felt this tremendous pressure and aimed his laser cannon at the earth centipede. Boom! A laser shot through space toward the earth centipede, but it twisted its body and dodged it. Dozens of pairs of legs quickly climbed up the rock wall and rushed toward Uncle Yu. Uncle Yu felt the enormous pressure. Now, he relied heavily on his armor in battle. If his laser cannon and shoulder cannons were ineffective, he would be unable to face a captain-level opponent. At the critical moment, Liang Yu made her move. She jumped off Flower's back, and the dragon's roar in her hand shot out with a clang. 2 grappling hooks shot out from the waist of her combat suit and hooked onto the rock wall, swinging her through the air like a swing toward the giant earth centipede. The earth centipede let out a sharp hiss, and Liang Yu's gaze was as sharp as a sword. A blue airflow like smoke overflowed from her limbs, enveloping her body like a cloud and flowing behind her. As a martial arts master, Liang Yu had cultivated both her internal and external skills, and internal skills in martial arts were also known as the Qi sect. Those who practice internal martial arts guide the Qi within their bodies by observing their inner landscape to cultivate their character and strengthen their physique. Thousands of years ago, there were Qi practitioners in the pre-Qin dynasty, and even in modern martial arts, there is still the concept of Qigong. However, with the rise of firearms, martial arts fell into decline, and the harsh conditions required for training led to the gradual disappearance of Qigong. Liang Yu is one of the few martial arts masters in modern times. She began practicing martial arts at the age of 3 and is the only remaining disciple of the Qi sect. However, after 26 years of rigorous training, she can only gather enough Qi to extinguish a candle 3 meters away, far from the legendary level of being able to use her Qi to injure people. The realm of controlling objects with Qi and flying swords to hurt people only existed in distant legends. Liang Yu's father once told her that to reach that level, one must have 200 years of training from a martial arts master. With the end of the world approaching and the human body mutating, Liang Yu also obtained the legendary power of the Qi sect. She could use her mind to drive the Qi within her body, separate it from her body, and use flying swords to hurt people. Now, she was a true martial arts grandmaster. Liang Yu opened her thin lips and inhaled deeply. The blue smoke swirling around the long sword in her hand was not overwhelming, but as elegant as a ribbon in the hands of a flying goddess. This was Liang Yu's latest martial arts ability, quantum entanglement. The earth centipede, which was at the captain level, twisted its huge body and rushed towards Liang Yu. It opened its blood-red mouth, about to bite Liang Yu in half. Liang Yu's eyes were fixed on it, her cold eyes showing no emotion. In the blink of an eye, the two crossed paths, and blue smoke swirled in midair. In the next instant, the giant centipede's body slammed into the rock wall. Then its head snapped in half with a crack, and green blood spurted out, slowly falling toward the ground. Liang Yu was quick-witted and hooked its remains with a hook rope. Seeming to think that it wasn't convenient to carry it around, she pulled out an iron chain, pierced the earth centipede, and then stuck it into the rock wall. A captain-level earth centipede was actually skewered like a sausage by her. Liang Yu and Uncle Yu were close-range mutants, and it was rare for them to be able to participate in a battle of this level, so they were eager to show off their strength. However, there were also those who looked at the huge group of earth centipedes and swallowed several mouthfuls of saliva in fear. Fatty Su sat on Flower's back and already felt his legs go weak. But Liang Yang was right next to him, so he had to put on a brave face and not let himself look like a coward. "Chunlei, you're so awesome. With your help, it's much easier for everyone to fight." Liang Yang smiled gently at Fatty Su. Fatty Su scratched his head and laughed. "It's okay. It's not a big deal for me. Yang Yang, you stay here. I'll protect you." At this moment, a dissatisfied voice came from below. "Meow?" Flower's huge eyes rolled upward, as if questioning Fatty Su. "Do you want to say that again?" Flower was near Fatty Su and the others. It didn't rush to attack, partly because there was no target worth attacking. Secondly, Zhang Yi had instructed him to give priority to protecting his companions rather than rushing into fight. Otherwise, with his strength, as long as the other side didn't use epsilon-level earth centipedes, the other earth centipedes would become his afternoon tea. Fatty Su was a little embarrassed and quickly changed his words. "With Flower and me here to protect you, there's no need to be afraid." The smile on Liang Yang's face grew even wider. She looked at Fatty Su with deep affection in her eyes, but at this moment, she gently shook her head. "Everyone is fighting, I can't hold them back. So, I'd better go and help a little." With that, she jumped down from Flower's back, falling lightly in midair. From her body, black and red supernatural powers shot out like ribbons, quickly wrapping around her body. There must be a way to Yao Tai, so let's follow the blue bird into the clouds. Summon the gods. Spirit of darkness, enter my body. I am the mother of lightning, and I wield thunder. The blue bird whispered softly, and a strand of lightning shot out from her body. Her gentle eyes instantly turned fierce. She dove down, powerful electric currents following her, turning into thousands of sharp swords that slashed down, instantly shredding a large group of earth centipedes. Fatty Sue saw this scene and froze, unable to move. After a long time, he swallowed hard with a bitter taste in his mouth. He had thought that today he could show off in front of Li Yanyan. He didn't expect her to be so much stronger than him. As a mutant who could go on military campaigns, Li Yanyan's strength was among the best even among the 36 heavenly spirits. I failed to show off. How embarrassing. Fatty Sue could only cover up his embarrassment with laughter and sarcasm. He had thought he could show off in front of the girl he liked, but he didn't expect her to be so much stronger than him. The mutants from the 4 major regions began to display their abilities and attack the Earth Centipede tribe. Their task was to attract attention and, if possible, lure out the Earth Centipede Queen and the Centipede King so that the 4 main forces could hunt them down. Therefore, they fought without restraint. The heavenly spirits were the best prepared. They had dealt with Earth Centipedes for the longest time, so they knew exactly how to deal with them. Tian Shangxing Zhou Haojie opened a tactical backpack behind him, took out one black iron disc-shaped bomb after another, and threw them at the rock wall below. The bombs stuck to the rock wall, and after a moment, they triggered a series of explosions. The hard rock wall was blown to pieces, and a large number of Earth Centipedes fell directly into the abyss. Start killing. Make as much noise as possible. Tian Fengyi had transformed into the giant ape Wu Zhiqi, with huge iron chains wrapped around his body like hooks hanging from the rock wall, and a black Edelman alloy staff clenched tightly in his right hand. He swung the long staff in his hand, and with each blow, he created a powerful wind that shattered a group of Earth Centipedes. With the help of Deng Shentong's artificial sun and Fatty Sue's blizzard, their battle underground went extremely smoothly, and they gained the upper hand from the start. Zhang Yi was suspended in midair, and Han Shanzhua had a pair of huge black wings growing from his back, which also allowed him to hover in midair. Li Changgong stood beside Zongyue, whose ability allowed him to extend intersecting stone strips underground at any time to use as support points. They calmly watched the battle below, with no intention of intervening, lest they alert the enemy. The battle continued, and the mutant beast army was already killing with blood boiling, but the Earth Centipedes were still pouring out, with no idea how many of these things were underground. Zongyue said indifferently to the others, "There are large amounts of yuan stone veins underground, and those 2 epsilon insects probably absorbed their power to advance. With sufficient food, their reproduction rate is also extremely alarming. So we must deal with them as quickly as possible, otherwise if we give them more time to absorb more yuan stone veins, I'm afraid we really won't be able to handle them." Han Shanzhua frowned, "But why is there no movement down there?" The human mutant beast army was well prepared, so slaughtering these Earth Centipedes was not too difficult. Although there were powerful captain-level beings among the Earth Centipedes, they were still no match for humans with their high intelligence and weapons. In just a few minutes, the abyss was covered with the green fluid of Earth Centipedes splattered on the rock walls. Tens of thousands of Earth Centipedes were killed and fell into the depths of the abyss. Even so, the Centipede Queen and the Centipede King had not appeared. Could it be that they are highly intelligent and have realized our purpose? Zhang Yi looked at Zongyue beside him. "No, something's wrong." Zongyue frowned. "Earth Centipedes are not highly intelligent creatures. I've fought the Centipede Queen and the Centipede King before. If they were smart enough, I might not have escaped last time." Zongyue's words attracted the attention of the 3. Li Changgong asked, "What do you mean? Could it be that the 2 epsilon-level Earth Centipedes are out on a mission?" Zongyue hugged his arms and fell into deep thought. He couldn't guess the answer to this question. After all, this was a mutated creature, and they didn't know what kind of creature it was mutated from, let alone its exact habits. Just then, Yang Xinxin's voice reached Zhang Yi's ears. Brother, there's a possibility that the centipede queen and the centipede king are hatching their larvae. Yang Xinxin's reminder made Zhang Yi's eyes light up, and he immediately shared his guess with the others. Han Shanzhua rubbed his chin. It's also possible that they're mating. Zhang Yi laughed. That kind of thing can be interrupted at any time, but hatching larvae is a biological instinct. Unless there's force beyond their control, the mother won't leave the larvae. Zongyue's expression became serious. These things can really reproduce. If we let them continue to multiply, the consequences will be unimaginable. Just looking at the abyss below, there were at least thousands of meters of rock walls that were already riddled with holes, and the number of earth centipedes was unimaginable. No one dared to let these creatures continue to breed with such abundant resources. How about we take the initiative and attack them? Han Shanzhua said indifferently. Zongyue looked at Han Shanzhua. Do you have a way to find the centipede queen and the centipede king? Although they had detection equipment, many of the devices were affected by magnetic interference and were difficult to use 10,000 meters underground. This place was similar to Mist Valley on Star Island, both of which had special magnetic fields. What's more, the underground space was too vast, which added to the difficulty of the search. A smug smile appeared on Han Shanzhua's white, fat face. His slender eyebrows twitched, and he raised his chin toward Zongyue. Who do you think I am? Just watch, brother will help you find them. After saying that, he reached out and teased the red crow on his left shoulder. The red crow turned its head to look at him, then quickly turned into a blood-red smoke and disappeared into his body. Flutter, flutter. Large flocks of black feathers suddenly appeared around Han Shanzhua's body and turned into a whirlwind that enveloped him. An extremely ominous aura spread to the surroundings. Seeing this, Zhang Yi and the others immediately distanced themselves from Han Shanzhua. The Calamity Crow was not a good omen. Anyone who came into contact with it would bring misfortune upon themselves. The black whirlwind grew larger and larger, and the black feathers in the sky gradually condensed into a huge sphere in midair, which was rapidly expanding. Caw-caw! An old crow's cry that sent a chill down the spine rang out from the center of the black sphere. Even the mutant beast army, who were still fighting, felt a chill coming from behind them. Flutter! The black sphere suddenly exploded from the inside, and a pair of huge black wings spread out to both sides, with a wingspan of more than 200 meters. Even in the huge underground abyss, they seemed incomparably huge. Han Shanzhua revealed his mutant beast form, a huge black crow. Caw-caw-caw-caw. Take a good look, my friends. Han Shanzhua let out a laugh that made people's scalps tingle. He flapped his wings, and countless black feathers fell from his body. After the feathers fell, they quickly turned into black crows. Caw! Caw! The cries of crows filled the abyss, and countless crows flew rapidly downward, then flew into all the rock walls. Han Shanzhua's big eyes looked down on Zhang Yi and the other two, and he said indifferently, My children will go find the centipede queen and the centipede king. As soon as they find them, I will sense it immediately. So, don't worry. Caw-caw. He laughed triumphantly, but for some reason, his laughter sounded like a duck, which made it even more unpleasant. Countless crows flew into the caves in the rock walls. They did not attack the earth centipedes, but simply flew deeper into the caves. The caves here were interconnected, but the source must be the earth centipede's nest. All Zhang Yi and the others had to do was wait for Han Shanzhua's response. After nearly 10 minutes had passed, an angry cry suddenly came from the depths of the abyss. Screech! Han Shanzhua's pupils lit up with excitement. We found it. In his field of vision, he saw a huge cave deep underground. It was as if a space had been carved out deep in the earth, like a small giant egg, hundreds of football fields in size. Inside, there were white eggs everywhere, and the centipede queen was coiled in the middle of the eggs. Just as Zhang Yi had said, the centipede queen was incubating her larvae. I found the centipede queen. Han Shanzhua said, his eyes filled with impatience. Let's move quickly. Don't let it escape. Everyone wanted the origin of the mutant beasts. There were 2 origins, but 3 people wanted them. Naturally, it would be first come, first served. Li Changgong's left hand subconsciously pressed down on the hilts of his two long swords. All right, what are we waiting for? Wait. Zhang Yi stopped them. Is that all you found, just the centipede queen? There were 2 epsilon-level earth centipedes underground, but now they had only found the centipede queen. Where was the even more powerful centipede king? Han Shanzhua frowned. We haven't found it yet. But since they're not in the same place, killing the centipede queen first is the best choice. Zhang Yi never fought unprepared battles. If they couldn't determine the location of the centipede king, he thought it would be extremely unwise to launch an attack. He pointed down at the mutant beast army below. If we all go down to surround the centipede queen, what if the centipede king attacks? How many of them do you think will survive? According to Xingjing's assessment, the centipede king's ability index was as high as 18,000 points. None of the people present were confident that they could defeat it in a one-on-one battle, let alone in the abyss, its home turf. Even if they teamed up, they would need 3 against 1 to have a better chance of winning. If the centipede king attacked the mutant beast army, few would survive. Li Changgong said, if we attack the centipede queen, the centipede king will definitely come to her aid as soon as possible. A cold smile appeared on Zhang Yi's lips. He was not a gambler and would not bet on probability. I don't think it's necessary. 2 people are enough to deal with a mere centipede queen. There's no need to risk everything. Flower, Liang Yu, and the others were still here, and Zhang Yi couldn't bear to let his people fall into danger. Zhang Yi's steady character was acknowledged by Zhong Yue. He also said, indeed, we need to prepare for the centipede king, and there is no need for all 4 of us to go and deal with the centipede queen. Han Shanzhua's eyebrows knitted together. In that case, you stay here and guard the place. I'll go first. After he finished speaking, he spread his wings and quickly rushed downwards. Li Changgong said, you stay here, I'll go with him to deal with the centipede queen. 2 people are enough. He flashed forward and caught up with Han Shanzhua, and the 2 rushed towards the nest where the centipede queen was located underground. It was as if they were afraid that someone else would steal their glory. Zhang Yi didn't say anything and remained where he was. Zhong Yue saw this and was amazed. That's the origin of a level epsilon mutant beast. Don't you want it? Zhang Yi calmly replied, smart merchants only earn limited profits. They are gamblers, but I am not. He actually hoped that the 2 of them would successfully kill the centipede queen. After all, Zhang Yi's ultimate goal was to complete this mission and ensure that the Yuan Stone vein could be mined smoothly. Even if he didn't get the epsilon origin, he would still get 10% more of the Yuan Stone vein, so he wouldn't lose anything. Zhong Yue looked at the young man beside him and couldn't help but ask, but you and Gochin have a conflict. If he gets the epsilon origin and becomes stronger, based on his temperament, he will challenge you again. Zhang Yi smiled dismissively, then said in a calm but confident tone, no matter how strong he becomes, he won't be able to beat me. Zhang Yi already knew Li Changgong's abilities. Unless Li Changgong's strength increased significantly, he would be powerless against Zhang Yi. If he couldn't win, he could just run away. Zhong Yue looked at Zhang Yi, a smile of appreciation appearing on the corner of his mouth, and he nodded secretly. He greatly admired Zhang Yi's character. The 2 watched the battle below, with no intention of intervening. This rare mission was an excellent opportunity for them to hunt powerful mutant beasts and obtain origin. Zhang Yi and Zhong Yue weren't going to fight with them over those things. If the 2 of them made even the slightest move, they would probably smash those earth centipedes to pieces. The 2 of them just stood by, keeping an eye out for the centipede king while communicating with Han Shanzhua and Li Changgong to prevent any accidents from happening on their side. On the other side, Han Shanzhua shrank his body and quickly moved along the underground passage with Li Changgong toward the nest where the centipede queen was located. The earth centipedes they encountered along the way tried desperately to stop them, but they were no match for them. A few minutes later, the 2 passed through a long tunnel and fell into a huge underground space. It was like a natural underground cave, huge beyond belief, with stalactites that were hundreds of millions of years old growing on the surrounding rock walls, and large amounts of blue ore protruding from the rock walls, like stars in the sky. This was the center of the Yuan stone vein, and the surrounding area was littered with gnawed ore. The entire underground cave was now covered in white, which was tens of thousands of earth centipede eggs, entangled and stuck together by a sticky white liquid. The giant centipede queen was coiled in the middle of the nest, which was a small mountain, with earth centipede eggs piled up at the foot of the mountain. Upon discovering the intruders, the centipede queen let out an angry roar. It slowly rose from the small mountain, its flat body swaying like a huge sail. This terrifying monster was hundreds of meters long. What a huge thing! Han Shanzhua couldn't help but exclaim, "It's bigger than a bird, but size doesn't matter. Let's see if you're tough enough." Black mist swirled around him, and the cries of crows echoed throughout the underground space, then transformed into a giant calamity crow. Li Changgong held the hilt of his sword with both hands and said to Han Shanzhua, "You distract it from the front, and I'll attack from the side. As long as I can land a single slash, it's dead." Han Shanzhua nodded in agreement, "Okay." The earth centipede's defense was extremely strong, and the shell outside its body could cut through rock thousands of meters underground like tofu. It would be difficult for Han Shanzhua to deal with it alone. But Li Changgong's I Am Heaven's Will was specifically used to defeat such highly defensive targets. The two agreed immediately. Han Shanzhua stamped his feet on the ground, making a loud roar. It spread its black wings, which were over 200 meters wide, and cried out with a loud caw to the sky. Suddenly, countless black feathers fell from the sky, and the entire underground cave was enveloped in an ominous atmosphere, with a strange red color staining the entire cave. The centipede queen was suddenly enveloped in black smoke. It became restless and agitated, but the black smoke was like a chain, and no matter how it twisted and turned, it couldn't escape. This was Han Shanzhua's ability, omen of disaster, an unavoidable locking ability. Anyone who was enveloped by it would be plagued by misfortune and their movements would be greatly restricted. Crackle! The centipede queen twisted her huge body, and her shell made a crisp sound. She shook violently, and the friction between her shells caused an invisible shock wave to burst from her body and spread towards Han Shanzhua and Li Changgong in an instant. The invisible shock wave avoided the insect eggs, and wherever it passed, the hard ground was instantly crushed like dust. Han Shanzhua and Li Changgong's expressions changed, and they instantly leaped into the air. When they looked back, the rock wall behind them had turned into fragments like falling snow. "Gochen, watch out!" Han Shanzhua flapped his wings and flew straight toward the centipede queen. He let out a shrill cry like an old crow and aimed his sharp iron claws at the centipede queen's back. The centipede queen rose into the sky without fear, opening its huge mouth filled with sharp teeth. Boom! The crow and the centipede queen collided, and the collision between the two giant creatures caused a terrifying windstorm that shattered the surrounding insect eggs. This made the centipede queen roar in anger. Its body twisted like a spring, then it shot towards the crow in midair, its huge long beak stabbing like a spear. Han Shanzhua didn't dare to let his guard down for a moment and relied on his advantage in the air to dodge the centipede queen's attack. "Caw caw caw, you can't hit me, you can't hit me. How can a bug on the ground catch a bird in the air?" "Caw caw caw," Han Shanzhua shouted smugly. The centipede queen was enraged by him. It opened its huge mouth, and a powerful energy quickly gathered in its throat. Han Shanzhua's eyes narrowed, and he also opened his bird's beak, and a blood-red energy gathered and took shape. Magic Crow Wave. Screech! The two terrifying forces collided directly in midair, and the force was so powerful that it caused the entire cave to tremble. Countless insect eggs were smashed, sticky egg liquid was scattered everywhere, and even some unformed earth centipede corpses were thrown everywhere. At this moment, Li Changgong, who had been waiting for the right moment to strike, continuously activated 6 realms without distance and took advantage of the centipede queen's attention being drawn to Han Shanzhua to come up behind it. The centipede queen's attention was completely drawn to Han Shanzhua. It was not unaware that it was facing 2 enemies at the same time, but both of its opponents were close to its strength, and it did not have the ability to divide its attention between them. the main feature of space abilities was surprise. Li Changgong attacked from behind while the Centipede Queen and Han Shanzhua were fighting, and instantly aimed his long sword at its head and slashed. My thoughts cut everything, wherever my heart goes, nothing can stand in its way. With death approaching, the Centipede Queen's body twisted violently, every muscle tensed, and its body began to twist like a pretzel. Puff! A long gash was cut directly across its back, and dark green blood spurted out like a fountain. The Centipede Queen was shocked. It couldn't believe that its impenetrable armor had been cut open so easily. As it twisted its body to dodge, its tail lashed out at Li Changgong. Li Changgong wasn't stupid. He couldn't possibly withstand the Centipede Queen's death throes, so he instantly retreated 1,000 meters after landing his blow. Terrifying blood flowed from the Centipede Queen's wound, and Han Shanzhua and Li Changgong smiled at each other. If it was a battle between mutants and mutant beasts of similar strength, with one more helper, the result of the battle would be just like this, an easy victory. Since it worked once, they could do it a few more times and the Centipede Queen would surely die. Before the two had time to rejoice, the Centipede Queen let out a hiss, and the terrifying wound on the back of her neck was clamped shut by muscles and quickly healed. Gray flesh grew out like foam, and her wounds were healed. Super fast regeneration. Li Changgong and Han Shanzhua's expressions darkened. This monster living deep in the earth was indeed terrifyingly resilient. Again. The two of them weren't going to waste a single moment here. They had to take advantage of the Centipede Queen being alone to kill it. Li Changgong muttered coldly, "Just one more time. If my sword cuts in another meter, I can slash its neck." Han Shanzhua let out a loud cry, and black mist filled the entire underground cave. The omen of disaster enveloped the Centipede Queen's entire body. He leaped into the air, then suddenly dove down toward the Centipede Queen, intending to repeat his previous move. But this time, the Centipede Queen had clearly learned its lesson. It looked coldly at its enemy and did not choose to face it head-on, but quickly lay down on the ground and slithered away at high speed. Huh? Trying to escape? Where are you going? Han Shanzhua laughed loudly, spread his wings, and a huge black figure chased after it from the sky. Li Changgong kept teleporting to the side, cutting off the Centipede Queen's retreat. If the two of them let the Centipede Queen get away today, it would be a huge joke. The Centipede Queen let out a sharp cry as it fled. Han Shanzhua and Li Changgong instantly understood that it was calling for help. "No, we have to kill it quickly." Han Shanzhua let out a loud cry and, like a fighter jet, his enormous body dove toward the Centipede Queen on the ground, like an eagle hunting a snake. The Centipede Queen's head dove straight down, drilling through the hard rock like rotten mud, and its entire body burrowed inside. Boom! Han Shanzhua dove straight down, his head hitting the ground at full speed. His bird's beak could also easily break through the rock layers underground. With just one blow, the entire ground shattered like a spider web. The soil and rocks tens of thousands of meters underground were extremely dense, comparable to gold and iron, but they couldn't withstand the impact of a level epsilon. The earth shattered, and the Centipede Queen's body suddenly appeared from among the rubble. Its twisted body was like a spring, shooting towards Han Shanzhua's neck while opening its huge mouth. Han Shanzhua's pupils suddenly contracted. He didn't expect that the Centipede Queen was actually using a feint to escape. If it bit him, his neck would be broken. He frantically twisted his neck to dodge the fatal blow, but the Centipede Queen's sharp body still cut a long gash on his side. Han Shanzhua's pupils were filled with blood, and he opened his bird beak and pecked at the Centipede Queen's body. The indestructible shell shattered with a loud crack under his beak. Taking advantage of Han Shanzhua's struggle with the Centipede Queen, Li Changgong had already caught up and swung his sword again. The Centipede Queen tried to dodge, but Han Shanzhua grabbed it with his huge talons, and the curse of the omen of disaster made it difficult for it to move. With one sword stroke, its huge head was severed from its neck with a pop, then fell to the ground with a boom. Li Changgong landed lightly and looked at the results of the battle before him, his eyes filled with uncontrollable joy. He didn't expect this battle to go so smoothly. He couldn't help but exclaim, insects are just insects. Even if lowly animals obtain powerful strength, they still don't have the wisdom to rival the supreme beings. Han Shanzhua grinned and said, that's easy for you to say. I was almost gutted. Li Changgong looked at Han Shanzhua, then at the earth centipede's head on the ground, and smiled deeply. Don't be unhappy, it was all worth it. We got an epsilon level origin. Han Shanzhua was still gasping for air. Ouch, that hurts, damn it, the claws of this damn thing are too sharp, like swords. At this point, he shook his eyebrows and looked at Li Changgong. I shed blood for this thing, so I should get the credit, right? Go Chen, give me this origin. Next time we catch the Centipede King, I'll stand by your side and give you its origin. How about it? The smile on Li Changgong's face deepened. The two had worked together in perfect harmony, but when it came to dividing the spoils, they were still scheming and neither was willing to give an inch. Godluya, that's not how it works. He stuck the long sword in his hand into the rock and looked amused. Without me, it's not certain that you could defeat the Centipede Queen on your own. The atmosphere between the two was tense, and Han Shanzhua narrowed his eyes. Just at that moment, a faint crackling sound came from deep within the huge insect nest. Crack, crack. In the corner of the insect nest, an earth centipede egg slowly cracked open, and out ran an earth centipede over a meter long, covered in bright red and with countless eyes. Unlike the white ones everyone had seen before, it was a deep dark red color, and its body was like red gold, giving off an eerie glow. Behind it was a large cluster of earth centipede eggs, gently swaying as if they were about to hatch at any moment. Han Shanzhua suddenly frowned and asked Li Changgong, did you hear that? Li Changgong had of course heard it, as the sound wave detection system of his combat suit was quite advanced. It sounded like something broke. The sound of eggshells cracking grew louder and louder. The two epsilons looked around and saw that many of the earth centipede eggs they had overlooked earlier had hatched prematurely due to the vibrations from the battle. On the ground, on the rock walls, and even on the cave ceiling above their heads, strange earth centipedes hatched from eggs fixed in place by white mucus. So it was these little things. Han Shanzhua's mouth twisted into a sneer, his face full of disdain. Although there were quite a lot of them, and they were densely packed, which was quite frightening, the Centipede Queen had been killed by them. How much trouble could these little centipedes cause? You take care of them. Li Changgong said to Han Shanzhua. I'm not good at cleaning up battlefields. One-on-one, his abilities were nearly unbeatable, but when the enemy outnumbered him, even small monsters that weren't very strong could cause him a lot of trouble. This was perhaps the only flaw in his abilities, but it was also his biggest weakness. Hey, it's no big deal. We haven't discussed how to divide the origin yet. Han Shanzhua smiled and lowered his head. He did not release his transformation. His huge crow body was more than 100 meters tall, like a skyscraper. He looked down at Li Changgong on the ground, who was holding his sword and smiling at him. Neither side completely trusted the other. But just at that moment, Han Shanzhua's gaze suddenly froze, and he looked behind Li Changgong in surprise. That thing! Holy shit, get out of the way! A hint of surprise flashed in Li Changgong's eyes, then he laughed and said, Don't play games with me, we're not children. Before he could finish, he felt a tremendous pressure behind him, locking him in place. The Centipede Queen, whose head had been cut off, stood up again, and a brand new head emerged from her neck, which was covered in green blood. It happened in the blink of an eye. When Han Shanzhua and Li Changgong were focused on each other, neither of them expected that the underground creature could still be alive after having its head cut off. They forgot that underground creatures could not be understood by common sense, let alone mutated underground creatures. The Centipede Queen attacked Li Changgong from behind, letting out a sharp cry as an invisible wave of sound rapidly approached him. The two were too close, and by the time Li Changgong came to his senses, the sound wave was already behind him. At the critical moment, he turned his left hand and slashed backward. Buzz! The ground shattered, and the sword blocked the terrifying attack, but Li Changgong's combat suit was instantly torn to shreds. Li Changgong looked a little battered at this moment, with only a few pieces of clothing hanging on his body. The combat suit could only help him adapt to the environment and provide basic defense. But when it came to a battle at the Epsilon level, his defense was not non-existent, but only very inadequate. But at this moment, a troublesome problem arose. After his combat suit was destroyed, the change in air pressure deep underground would cause his body to feel uncomfortable, and there was an extreme lack of oxygen here. Li Changgong immediately pulled away from the Centipede Queen and called for help from Han Shanzhua. "Do you have any spare oxygen tablets and combat suits?" Han Shanzhua glanced at Li Changgong and decided to help him. Even if there was a conflict of interest, they were still on the same side at this moment. He shook his wings and threw the spare combat suit in front of Li Changgong. He himself stared intently at the Centipede Queen in front of him to prevent it from attacking at this moment. However, the Centipede Queen did not take the opportunity to attack after being revived. It coldly stared at the enemy in front of it, but instead slowly pulled away, its huge body moving across the ground. Han Shanzhua understood its purpose. At this moment, tens of thousands of Earth centipedes had appeared in the cave without anyone noticing. In addition to the Earth centipedes that had just hatched, there were also the adult insects that had been attracted by the Centipede Queen's call for help. "This is going to be a bit difficult." Han Shanzhua exhaled, and Li Changgong finally changed into his combat suit, still feeling a little shaken. What about Epsilon? Under the power of nature, it was still weak and would die without oxygen. He swallowed hard and thought to himself, "I have to be more careful." The swarm of insects surged from all directions and began to charge at Han Shanzhua and Li Changgong. Li Changgong's expression turned ugly. His abilities were not very useful in group combat. If there were only a few thousand Earth centipedes, he could still rely on his speed to slash them one by one. But there were more Earth centipedes underground than he could imagine. The next battle would definitely be a tough one. However, neither he nor Han Shanzhua had any intention of calling for help. With two more people, it would be even more difficult to divide the origin. Caw-caw! Han Shanzhua's omen of disaster was released indiscriminately throughout the entire cave, affecting all the Earth centipedes inside, greatly restricting their movement, as if they were swimming in a swamp. "I'll deal with these little monsters, you go kill the Centipede Queen?" Han Shanzhua said to Li Changgong. Li Changgong nodded, "That's the only way." "But what if it gets away?" Han Shanzhua hesitated a little. This was underground, their territory. Li Changgong looked at him, "Then what do you want to do?" Han Shanzhua didn't say anything, and Li Changgong knew what he meant. "Call for help and bring Zongyue and Zhang Yi here. 4-against-1 would be the safest approach." But they were too unwilling to share the spoils. "Let's fight first." Time was of the essence. Rather than hesitating here, it was better to take a desperate gamble. Li Changgong was confident in his ability to fight the Centipede Queen one-on-one. Such a giant beast was his ideal prey. The problem now was to find its weak spot and kill it with one blow. If its weak spot wasn't its head, then he would have to try again and again until he found it. To do this, Han Shanzhua had to clear away the large number of small monsters around him. Han Shanzhua rose into the air, caw-caw, waving his black wings. Countless black feathers fell, turning into a sky full of crows, and began to fly towards the Earth centipedes. The crows and Earth centipedes fought together, and after a certain point, they could even explode themselves. This relieved Li Changgong of a lot of pressure and gave him space to fight the Centipede Queen one-on-one. Li Changgong clenched his long sword with both hands and rushed forward in an instant. With the 6 realms without distance, he could cover 1,000 meters in a flash. His speed was too fast, and the Centipede Queen couldn't dodge his pursuit. But this time, without Han Shanzhua distracting her in front of him, the Centipede Queen was prepared for his attacks, so it wasn't so easy to get the upper hand.